I am Dr. Tamika Blake, and I am an emergency physician. And I just wanted to give you a little teaser just about what I wrote about in our new book, Women in White Coats Chronicles. Now, just imagine this picture. I've worked hard. I've wanted to be a doctor ever since I was a little girl. There's no doctors in my family. I got to college and I worked really hard to make it. And I'm like, yes, I'm in. And I graduate from an Ivy League institution with honors, and I'm on a high. It's about May, and I remember my mother renting literally a charter bus from Queens, New York, that went upstate New York to Ithaca, where I was graduating, with 30 plus people. So that's how big it was. So I come back and I'm like, yes, I'm going to med school. And literally a month after graduating, I'm pregnant. Literally. Now, that was not the plan. So just imagine, I come from a Caribbean, Jamaican household where, that was like, what is really going on? And having so many look at me differently, like, oh, she's not going to be a doctor. Like, what is she going to do now? And it was literally, and honestly, I probably had the same questions or concerns about how am I going to do this? And I'm getting to school, which, I went to Cornell Medical School in New York, New York. And it was just a time where I'm like, oh, this is different. And no one in my class had a baby. I was the only one out of a class of 101 students. So I couldn't do what everyone else was doing. I literally had to come up with a plan to figure out how I'm going to make this because, ultimately having a child should not stop me from being a physician. And that's what I had to tell myself. And it took a lot of little grit and prayer and a lot of support from those who were rooting for me. And at the time I was unwed, my at the time boyfriend, now husband. So it was a lot of things rolled into one, but it was a time that I'm thankful for because it completely changed the trajectory of my life and what things came later. And I'm so thankful because that little boy is graduating high school this year, 18 years later. So, you know, looking back, I sent a picture literally of, all the things going on with COVID and pandemic. He got his cap in the gown and hopefully we'll have some type of ceremony. I sent it to one of my best friends from med school. And she's like, my med school baby, because he was literally everyone's med school baby. So 6'3", honor student, he's going to college. So very thankful for that experience. So that's a little bit about what my chapter of being the only one.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amber Robbins, and I am a family medicine doctor. And I am also one of the co-authors of the Chronicles of Women in White Coats 2. And my chapter is about after the storm. Now, a lot of people know about the big storm, Hurricane Katrina. And I am from Louisiana, so that is definitely a part of our history, a part of what I went through growing up in Louisiana, and it also was a part of my decision on where I decided to go to undergrad. During my senior year in high school, I was trying to figure out, should I go to an Ivy League because my grades could allow me to go there? Should I go away from home to be able to experience something outside of my parents, outside of what I knew? And the institution that I was looking at actually had horses. So I would be able to go to horseback riding. So that was one part. Or should I do something that was for my state of Louisiana? Should I go to a Louisiana college? And so racking all those things in my head, especially knowing that Hurricane Katrina happened literally a couple of months before I had to make my decision on where I would go to college, I decided to go to Xavier University of Louisiana. During my journey there, my focus was medical school. Xavier is known to be one of the top undergraduate programs to get minorities, specifically African Americans, into medical school. So I knew that, but then I thought, well, maybe that might be a challenge because Hurricane Katrina happened and it wiped out everything. So the only place that we really had as a place to get our food that was dependable was a cafeteria. A lot of the teachers actually stayed on campus because they no longer had a place to stay because their homes were flooded. And the mood of the campus was completely different. My sister actually went to Xavier, and I saw one side of Xavier, but when I went, there was something completely different. It was a lot of hardships that happened during that time, and it was an experience that really helped me as I went on to become a physician. It helped me and ground me as someone from Louisiana, born and bred. Even though I'm not from New Orleans, I'm from Baton Rouge, but we're just an hour and a half away, and our city has been impacted too. So in the book, you'll be able to read about my story after the storm, how I was able to come up with a plan of action on what to do, and really how that shapes my career as a physician. So check it out in the Chronicles of Women in White Coats too.
I'm Dr. Kat Ogle, and I am an emergency physician, and I am one of the co-authors of the Chronicles of Women in White Coats 2. The background behind my story is I really wanted to share the foundation of why I became an emergency physician and how I got here, because the path was not the one that folks usually take. It was actually quite a circuitous path. And it started with kind of living in poverty and bouncing from house to house and bouncing from school to school and being the odd duck in school and, being a witness to domestic violence, being a victim of child abuse myself, and then becoming an adult, spreading my wings, and running into further sort of challenges and really finding the strength in support in my family and in my friends to help me grow and to help me stay strong and get me to where I am today. And so I think the reason I really was driven to share my story is because so many of the students that I work with now have this vision for what it should look like to be a physician or what the path should look like. And I'm here to tell you that everybody's path is different, and that's okay. So I look forward to your thoughts on the chapter.
I'm Dr. Latasha Bogues. I'm a pediatrician, and I'm one of the co-authors in the Women in White Coats 2 book. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I shared in the book. So I know that everyone knows that now infant morbidity and mortality and maternal morbidity and mortality are hot topics in the United States now. And I shared about my experience with that as a patient and a parent. And I spoke about my experiences as a patient in the hospital and the things I encountered as I had to advocate for myself to make sure that I got the best care. And I thought it was important to share this because it is such a relevant topic right now. And as I shared my experiences with people that I've met in real life, it was cathartic, and I knew that it was helpful to me and helpful to the people that I was sharing that information with. And then I also wrote another chapter that speaks about the hierarchy in medicine that everyone knows exists and encounters as they're going through medical training. And I spoke about an experience where I had to work very hard to make sure that my patient got what she needed so that she could get better. And I shared this story with a lot of my medical students and residents. And so I thought it was worth sharing with everyone because I just want people to know that they should be encouraged, that they may encounter roadblocks along the way through their training, but hopefully they should be able to trust the process and learn that at the end they can be an excellent physician who can be confident in providing the best care for everyone that they'll be privileged to be able to take care of.
Hey, my name is Dr. Archana Reddy Shrestha, and I'm an emergency physician who practices in the Chicago area. And in addition to being a physician, I'm also the co-editor-in-chief and co-founder of Women in White Coats blog. And I had the privilege of also writing for the first Chronicles of Women in White Coats book. So I'm back for the second book, and I'm so excited to be here to be writing 2 chapters for the second book. And in my first chapter, it's called Superwoman in a White Coat. And in that chapter, I write about my biggest role model for becoming a physician myself, and that was my mom, who is now a retired family medicine physician. But growing up, my mom used to take me with her to the hospital on rounds. And I also used to, when I was a teenager on Saturdays, I used to work in her office. So I really felt like I grew up around medicine. But not only that, I talk about how my mom immigrated to the United States from India, and she was starting her career in the 1970s and 80s. And I read about all the hurdles that she went through at a generation ago, and what women doctors then, a generation ago, were dealing with, and how the gender bias, she also faced racism. She also had to figure out how to balance being a mom as well as a physician, and she was highly engaged in the community as well, and was also doing much of the cooking and cleaning at home too. So I write about how she ended up becoming a superwoman, and what it is to be a superwoman, and superwoman syndrome. And in that chapter, I write about, the perils of being a superwoman as well, and some of the challenges that resulted for her as a result of trying to do it all. And I write about, is there a better way or maybe a better approach for all of us who are career women and also mothers, and also wear all the other roles that we wear in life. My second chapter is called Up for Grabs, and it is my reflections on what we are going through right now in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And I'm on the front lines. Like many of my other co-authors, many of us are on the front lines taking care of patients in a global pandemic. And I write about what that's like and what we're experiencing, the ups and downs, the challenges, and just really share honestly about my perspective on it. So I can't wait for you guys to read our book, and we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And thanks for checking out our book.
I'm Dr. Crystal Maxwell. I'm a family medicine physician, and I am so excited to be a co-author in the Women in White Coats Chronicles 2 as well. One of my chapters is titled Matters of the Heart. And in this chapter, I share the experience of suddenly losing my mother to heart disease of all weekends, of all holidays of the year, Mother's Day weekend. Not only was it Mother's Day weekend, but I was also pregnant with my first and only child, my daughter, at the time. And I was actually on my way to the airport to catch a flight to celebrate Mother's Day weekend with my mother, which I thought was going to be our first weekend of me being a mom, and her being able to celebrate her daughter, carrying her first granddaughter, and being a very special weekend for us. But it turned out to not be the case. So in that story, that chapter, I discuss the loss of her, the balance that I had to put in place with supporting my dad, while also balancing the practice that I was leaving behind in South Carolina, as I was the only physician in the rural clinic that I was serving. And so I talked about my the ways that I tried to handle both being daughter for my dad and support, and being physician to the patients that were needing me to make sure that their care was being handled appropriately. I also shared my own unexpected personal bout with heart failure, actually the following year after my mother died, when I was only 30 years old. These experiences have had lasting effects on both my personal life and how I practice medicine. Dealing with my own bout with heart failure, I was able to see the hospital and clinic setting from the patient perspective, which I provide some insight about how that went in the chapter. I give readers a glimpse into the heart matters that have shaped my life and helped me become not only a stronger woman, but also a better physician.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jennifer Davis, and I'm a pediatrician and an adolescent medicine specialist, as well as a co-author in the Chronicles of Women in White Coats 2. My chapter is about my journey to becoming a teen doc. I'm the first physician in my family, and I started having an interest in medicine when I was 10 years old. Started as a purely academic interest, and throughout middle school, high school, I developed an interest in women's health and wanted to be an OBGYN. Um, and so one part of the book is about basically my career path in the area of medicine I wanted to go into, from being an OBGYN. I wanted to be an OBGYN doctor. And then kind of when I got into medical school, realized that that may not be the right way to go for me based on the clinical experiences I had, and other physicians that I interacted with. Another aspect of my journey that I brought up was mainly the support system of my family, and how in college I had a great deal of difficulty academic-wise, where I felt that I wasn't necessarily getting supported in school, and just really isolated myself and thinking that I was the only person going through this experience of not doing as well as I wanted to. And some choices that I had to make that kind of took me off my path, but ultimately I did end up going to medical school. So that's my chapter, and I look forward to everyone reading it.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to join you here to talk about our book entitled The Chronicles of Women in White Coat 2. Again, I'm Dr. Patrina Crane. I'm an emergency medicine physician. I want you to take a moment and close your eyes with me. And I want you to think back to a time when you were traveling somewhere. Where were you going? What was the path you took to get there? Were there any roadblocks? Did it take you a long time to get there? Or did it seem like you arrived in a snap? Now open your eyes with me. All right. When we're trying to reach somewhere, the final destination we have in mind, that's our goal, to try to get to that final destination. But how many of us actually take time to actually reflect on the path it takes to get from point A to also point B? Is that going to be a smooth sailing path, or is it actually going to be rocky? In my chapter entitled Black plus Woman Does Not Equal Doctor, I take you along a personal journey with me in medicine. We take our own road trip in order to better explore the intersection between race and also gender. So you have to ask yourself, what pit stops am I going to encounter on this journey? What forks in the road will my perseverance actually come across? And also, what twists and what turns am I going to encounter? Using my words as a vehicle, you'll join me as a passenger on this journey to better define what does it mean to look like a Black woman in medicine.
My name is Dr. Kimberly Brown, and I'm also an emergency physician. I am very proud to be one of the co-authors of the Chronicle on Women in White Coats 2. And so I have also written several chapters in this book. And you'll find that you will learn a little bit about my journey to medicine. The chapter that I first write is called The Rules of Engagement. And you learn about my journey going to a Caribbean medical school and some of the roadblocks that I faced almost immediately when I arrived to the island, and how I ended up settling in and getting to the point where I could persevere and thrive and survive. My second chapter is called Making the Right Choice, where you fast forward in my life just a little bit to my second year of emergency medicine residency. And the chapter opens up with my mentor, Dr. Mark Brady, asking me over breakfast, what am I going to do after I finish residency? I thought I had one thing in mind. Some circumstances happened to me during residency, which I share in my chapter, that really formed my thought and my opinion on what kind of doctor that I would decide to be and what path I would take after I graduated from residency. And my last chapter is called I'm no hero. And it's in our special section where some of us have decided to write our thoughts and reflections on the current COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm used to hearing on the news that I'm a frontline hero and I'm a healthcare hero and all of these things, but I honestly don't think that I'm a hero. And so I share a little bit more about that. So I hope that you take a look and grab a copy of the Chronicles and Women in White Coats too. I'm so glad to share my story with you guys, and please enjoy.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to talk about my chapters in the Women in White Coats. I'm Dr. Anupama Verma, and I am a nephrologist. I have been practicing for over 15 years, so this medicine is my second love, though. And I talk about that in my first chapter, how I did not choose medicine, but medicine chose me. So I hope you enjoy that journey, because not everybody sets out to be a doctor, and I was one of those. In my second chapter, I talk about my struggles in medical school and how I learned to fail forward. You will fail, trust me, everybody will, but you have to pick up yourself, dust yourself off, and get up and go ahead and succeed. So those are my two chapters, and I hope you enjoy them. They give you a little glimpse into my life. And I also have a little poem which is talks about our COVID, the scenario, what we are going through currently in this pandemic. So I am really grateful for the opportunity to tell my stories in this book, and you will love this book. I have been blown away by some of the chapters in this book, in fact, and I'm so honored to be a part of it. So thank you.